Brilliant. Hope you can hear me well.
Yes,
Let's fire this up. Okay.
So we just need to share your screen.
Absolutely, I will. So let's hit it. Are you sure you want to share? Well, you can say so.
Kind of the point, isn't
Okay.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Just let me know when you see it. It should be fine.
We can see it. I'm just setting you up so that we've got your webcam on as well. So everyone.
So you see both the webcam and the slideshow, right?
They will right about now.
Okay, so let's fire this up. So, well, I was about to kill myself with this microphone. Okay, so welcome everybody to this yet another session on Excel charts, visualizations, graphs, tables, and more. My name is Boris. I run presentation agency 356 Labs, where we do and we work with some of the biggest brands out there, helping them write, design, and deliver truly effective presentations. If you want to know more about who we are, why are we so great, you'll let me know after the session. I think everyone here knows how to find people on the web. Now, this session is all about building charts and graphs in a better way, because normally what happens is that people create incredible things in Excel. I just spent quite some time in the previous session, and what I saw was like, what is possible in this tool? And back then I was also a SQL Server MVP, so I know how crazy Excel could be, of course. But what ends up happening is that normally, at least what we see all across the world with our clients, is that people leave those charts in the same way as Excel creates them. And that is a missed opportunity. That is a missed opportunity for you to differentiate and to communicate even better. So that's what we are trying to fix. Now, this slide is here just for admin purposes. You should be hearing me now. If you are not, you have to double check that. And I want to start with a quick demo because I really want to show you what we see on the market and what we end up dealing with and why this session maybe makes so much sense. So let me share something else with you. So I'll bring something on my screen. So I'll bring something on my screen and I'll go here to the Excel Virtually Global and I'll go to the demo one bad example. So I will show you 3 very quick slides. So this is what we are seeing out there on the market. This is not like I haven't changed that. I want you to understand that I'm not that bad of a person. This was something that was created by one of our clients, sent to us by one of our clients. And then during the meeting, when we saw each other, we actually asked them, hey, what is this chart saying? You created it, you have built it. What is this chart saying? And nobody was able to tell us what this chart was saying, even though it was coming from their own bank. That is kind of scary, right? You have built it, but at the same time, you don't know what it means and what it tries to communicate. That is the first one. Let me show you another one. I know it's in Bulgarian, but stay with me on this. So take a look. This, by the way, is a chart that we have seen in our previous office. We were back then, a few years ago, we were working in a co-working space. And we joined a session on agile consulting, agile methodologies, etc. So this person who was presenting was, by his words, very experienced, very expensive consultant, and yet his presentation looked like this. Now, I don't know if you have heard about something in presentations that's called ethos, logos, pathos, where ethos stands for credibility. But I personally, when I saw a slide like this, I immediately lose the trust in that person, in that speaker, because you cannot be expert. You cannot be a very expensive consultant if you're trying to show us a chart like this. I, by the way, personally tried to recreate that chart at home, and my girlfriend is the person who can tell you I was not able to do so. It is insane. This is Office 2000, Office 97 or something like this. And third one, this one. So I want you to look very carefully in this chart because there are let's start with 2 big problems here. First of all, this is 3 big problems. First of all, this is a pie chart, or at least should be, where, as we know, or at least as we are going to discuss right now, pie charts should sum up to 100%. Then the research itself is kind of tricky. It's actually, if you look very carefully and if you explore that space, the world of nonverbal communication and presentations, you'll see that that research is not exactly saying that, but anyhow. And then yet the problem with in the upper right, in the bottom right corner is that this is actually coming from LinkedIn, which is a credible resource, right? So a lot of problems at the same place, and that is probably why we're talking about this topic in first place, right? That is how crazy the world continues to be when we talk about visualizations. Now, going back to the slides, I need to let me actually fix this. That's annoying. So let me go here always. So let me go very quickly and kind of go with you through some of the basic chart types that are on the market. These are the chart types that we know very well. And these are the chart types that also the business world knows very well. That's super, super important. Because when we're building things, when you're building charts and graphs, they should communicate a message to somebody. And that somebody is probably not a data visualization expert, it's not an Excel expert, etc. They are most of the times business users, right? And we need to make sure that they understand the visualization that we created for them. That being said, which are the visualizations that, for good or for bad, the business world knows very well? Well, the first one is the pie chart, right? The pie chart is very specific because it helps us show part of the whole, right? What's also very important here is that it has to sum up to 100%, as we didn't see in the LinkedIn example. That's very, very important for pie charts. Be extremely careful, for example, when you are looking at pie charts during political elections, you may end up being surprised. At least in Bulgaria, we end up being surprised. Now, the next one is the donut chart. Donut chart, very similar to the pie chart. Many people say, well, it just looks more modern, you know, so let's use that one. Otherwise, it serves the same purpose, shows part of the whole, and again, it must sum up to 100%. Again, I'm sure that you may be familiar with those things. I just want to make sure that we do a very good recap on the most popular charts. Then we have the line chart. Line chart, again, very popular chart in the business community, in the business world. Why should we use it? When should you use it? Well, when we're showing continuous data, right? We are showing some trends across the years, across the months, across some days, etc. Very interesting for the no chart is that the line chart is that you can have multiple series, right? You can show, let's say, one product, then another product, many products on the same line chart. Of course, you shouldn't go crazy here because when you have a ton of them, the chart ends up being unreadable. Then we have the classics, right? We have the so-called bar chart, very, very powerful chart when you want to show comparisons and when you want to show and compare values. The note here, very, very easy to read. People are so, and the business world is so used to seeing bar charts and to understanding them. It is insane, for good, I mean. And then you also have the vertical one, or the horizontal one, which is again the same. However, it's very interesting, especially when you have long category names. So just to illustrate you the example, if I have the vertical charts, you will see a problem like this, right? Where you don't see the category names of what is being sold here, right? That is a problem that you can very easily fix with the horizontal bars. Even if I try to make the category titles, category names smaller, yeah, they could fit, but still it's not that, like, it's not as easy as it could be. Here are even smaller, right? However, if you have such a case, just flip the chart, use the horizontal one, and you will see a result like this. By the way, just wanted to mention, all the data that you are seeing here in this slide is absolutely fake. So just have it in mind, okay? Then we have the table. The table is not exactly a visualization, I would argue, and it's kind of very interesting thing in the world of data visualization and presenting data in first place. Why would we use table when we would use tables when we want to display multiple values, right? Many times we also, that's very, very, again, important. This is not a visual, but tables are very, very important and very much in the business world. However, I would argue and I would ask everybody, especially when you're presenting live or on a call, to very much question every single time when you're about to leave a table on the slide. Because yes, there are situations, there are cases where tables are particularly useful. And we're going to talk about this after a second, how we use the charts and how we choose the chart. But often, if you really think about it, and if people really think about it, the guys around you, the people around you, your colleagues, your friends, you will see that if you question them, hey, isn't there another way to communicate your message? And what is your message in first place? Why are you showing the table? You will see that very often they will figure it out and they will display and they will show a visualization instead of the table, which is always a great idea because it's being read very, very easily. Now, there is one more thing that I really wanted to show you that I'm kind of very huge fan of, and our agency is also a huge fan of because it's very, very simple. Again, when this is a visualization, let's put it this way, when you want to stress on a specific number, and for some reason it's not being used at all. People consider it very, very basic. Sometimes we have heard the feedback that, wait a minute, if I just show a number, even though that's the only thing that they really need to show if you ask them what the message is, they sometimes say that, well, my boss will think that I haven't done enough work, right? Yet the most important thing in a presentation or in a document that you are sending over email, which is again built on PowerPoint, exported as a PDF most of the times, is to communicate a message. And if you want to communicate just one number or two big numbers, two very important numbers, I don't see a reason why that approach shouldn't work, right? And of course, there are many, many other charts out there. I'm absolutely sure that you already have seen sessions exploring those, teaching you about those, explaining you all about those, or at least some of those. This is not the main idea here. There are a lot of those charts and a lot of those graphs on the market. I just wanted to stress our attention and our focus and keep it where the business really lives. And I would argue that these are the visualizations where the business lives most of the times. Now, that being said, the question is, okay, how do I choose and how do I approach that big Excel file or that table of data that I need to visualize? And if you really think about it, there are two ways in which humans, we as people, consume data. None of them is like, all of them work, all of them are perfectly fine. It's just two different paths that we have to consume data. And when we consume it in one way or the other way, well, if we are building a presentation, if we're building the visualization, we need to figure out what and how this visualization is going to be consumed. Is it in the so-called exploratory mode or in the explanatory mode? Because based on that decision, we may end up coming up with different visualization for otherwise the same data, right? So what are those types of consumption of data? Well, what is exploratory? Exploratory data visualizations, and when are we in this mode of consuming, is when you have a dashboard, let's say. I'll show you an example after a second, but let's say that you log into Power BI, you have a ton of visualization in there, and you start you see something that's of interest to you. You have your own permissions on that data, by the way, and you start analyzing, you start drill down on a specific data set, right? This is a moment where you are in exploratory mode. You are exploring the data, and dashboards are the perfect place for people and the business world where they explore a huge data set. Another place where you can be exploring data is documents, right? You receive a document, you see a table in that document, and you are like, okay, wait a minute, let me see what this means. Right? Let me see something interesting in that data. Let me see something interesting in that table. Your colleague next to you who is from the HR, let's say that you are from, I don't know, from the finance department, sees the same document, sees the same table, but they also explore the table through their own lens, through their own kind of know-how context of the business, right? This is again possible in the business world, and it happens on a daily basis. Same with reports, right? When you receive a report, be that automated or not, you may end up having visualizations that are not striving to communicate a message. They are there to help you, they are there to support you and to allow you to analyze a huge set of data and for you to see what's in there. So the key word here is that you are exploring the data and you end up discovering something that's of interest maybe to you. So just to show you an example of how this looks, I'll again go to a demo. and I'll go to Google Analytics, right? So this is the Google Analytics of our own website. And to me, by the way, this is not exactly very interesting or meaningful, etc. I'm just using it for the sake of the example. However, for our marketing person, that is very important place, right? Now, what I see here is a dashboard of data, right? And when I log in here, I can start exploring that visualization, let's say this line chart here, or line graph, whatever, or area, whatever. This is my mode. So I start exploring it. And in the context of exploring it, while I'm exploring, I notice things, I discover things, right? And this visualization allows me to discover those things. So for example, what I'm kind of curious about is, wait a minute, what happened here? Because up until from the beginning of the year, January 1st, up until here, March 18th, the traffic was more or less the same to our website. However, something happened on March 20th, right? I don't know what happened, or I can guess what happened, but it definitely looks interesting to me as the business person, right? And what actually happened here, what I discovered was that when I communicated this with Mikhail from my team, he said, yeah, that is actually the moment when we announced that our online course for PowerPoint tips and tricks is free now, right? This was exactly more or less at the beginning of the COVID-19 epidemic. And we decided, hey, let's enable everybody to learn while they're at home. And you can see a huge spike in the traffic, right? Then, however, I noticed something else. I'm like, wait a minute, if that is the online course where we enabled it and we allowed everybody to register for free, what the hell is this one here? Because again, I discover another spike and I'm like kind of questioning myself, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? And what is this, right? I'm discovering things, and this chart, this visualization is helping me do that very much. So I see that this is the 29th of April and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I know what this is. I know that this is the moment when we launched our new website. That is for sure the moment. And the reason why I know that was because me and a few more people from our team were working day and night to do that. And our deadline was 1st of May, and we wanted to launch it before 1st of May. So that is the launch of our website for sure. So this is exactly what I mean when I say discovery, right? This is the exploratory mode of consuming data. You go in a dashboard, you look at the report, you look at the document or a visualization, and you are like, okay, let me see what I can find here. You are playing with the data, you are exploring it, and you're trying to discover interesting patterns or insights, as people say, right? Now, what is the other one? The explanatory. The explanatory is a bit different. What explanatory aims and what those visualizations, which are tailored to the explanatory consumption mode, the difference with exploratory is that explanatory visualizations, and when you think about your visualization, you have to think about, is that visualization trying to not be analyzed by the audience that is going to receive it, but is that visualization going to try to convey a specific message, right? Where do you see those type of visualizations that are explanatory? And where do we consume type data in this way? Well, we do it in social media, right? When you go through Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, TikTok, LinkedIn, or whatever, not TikTok, but anyway, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, what you end up seeing is, let's say, a huge creative that's with contrasting color to the background of the social media platform, let's say red for Facebook, and you see a creative that says 68% of the world is consuming and is drinking Coca-Cola on a daily basis, right? That's explanatory. That's you understanding a message. I'm not saying that that's the right data. I'm just saying, hey, that's the message that Coca-Cola or somebody else wanted to convey to you. And that's the visualization, just one number and saying huge 64 that says, hey, 64% of the population drinks Coca-Cola on a daily basis. Where else do you see those? Well, you should be, let's stop here for a sec. You should be seeing those type of visualizations in presentations. And you should be seeing those type of visualizations in something that in our industry is called slide humans or slide docs, or more or less presentations that are being sent over email and that are not being presented live or in a virtual fashion, right? I'm sure that most of you here in this online call, or whoever is going to watch the recording, at least once, or if you haven't done this already, you'll be asked to. Don't worry about it. You'll be asked to. You have to prepare a presentation that's not being presented by you, but is being consumed over email. You prepare it on PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides, whatever, export it to a PDF and send it over. That presentation is self-sufficient. It has more data in it. It has more explanations in it. It has more text in it. And that's why you may want to call it, and in our industry, we call it slide doc, slide document, or slide document. In those type of files, you should be able to see visualizations that try to convey a message immediately, right? So the keyword here is, I would argue, understand. You see a visualization, or you're building a visualization, and what you try to do with that visualization is, when the audience sees it, your main idea was for them to understand the message that you want to pass on. That's the difference between exploratory and explanatory visualizations, right? And you, as the person who is building those visualizations, need to know it very well and plan ahead what the audience expects and what type of visualization should I prepare. Like, that is super, super important. So to give you an example of a visualization that's explanatory, well, here it is, right? Again, fake data, don't think about it. But again, our storytelling course generated most of our training revenue in 2019. And you see the storytelling bar, and well, that's the message. Our storytelling course generated most of our training revenue. I could have shown you a table with the same title on top, or I could have shown you just the table and said training revenue per course. But what is the message, right? When I place the title, when I color code a word in the title with one of the bars, it's way easier for me to become and to make the chart way easier to communicate the message that I want to communicate. So now I want somebody to help me out. If there are people that are online, I want us to do an exercise very quickly in the chat. So I want you to help me out. I will show you some visualizations, and if somebody will be able to show me and to tell me how people react, it will be great. So again, we are seeing some visualizations of data, and we are asking, what type of visualization is this? Is it exploratory, where this was built for somebody to discover things in? Or is it explanatory, when we are trying to convey a specific message? So let's go with the first one. This is the first one. Is this exploratory or is it explanatory? Can somebody let me know by unmuting themselves? Let me drink some water in the meantime.
I was going to say, the participants can't actually unmute themselves, so...
Can they write in the chat?
They can write in the chat, that's true, yes. There is a 15 to 20 second delay, so we'll need to wait a little bit for someone to respond, but hopefully that gives you a chance to rehydrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I closed all the doors because, again, you need to close the doors. Okay, so let's see if we have some response in the chat. Exploratory or explanatory? By the way, what do you think? Is it exploratory or explanatory?
Oh gosh, I have absolutely no idea, to be honest. We've got one response of exploratory.
Okay, that is very, very good. Again, are you able to convey, are you able to understand the message here, or was this table created in such a way so that you can discover something? That's the kind of the difference. Like, do you see a message being conveyed here? Because if somebody says exploratory, they're completely right. There is no message here, right? This is just a very simple table, and now you and whoever is looking at it have to explore it so that they find that, wait a minute, why is the trainer exactly planned and sold exactly as it was planned when every other course was oversold? That's interesting. Probably they haven't done anything, or they haven't marketed well. I don't know. So that is the first one. Let's move on to the next one. What about this one? Is it exploratory or explanatory? Again, let's wait a bit for the communication or the connection to kind of catch up. Do you see anything on the chat?
Probably need to wait a few more seconds, but
okay.
We'll hopefully get some in. I think we ended up getting about 6 responses on the first one. Everyone said exploratory, so pat in the back for everyone getting the right answer.
That's good. Very good. Very good. I'm a good teacher up until now, you see. Okay. What about this one? Do we see any responses?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's wait five or 6.
I'll try and answer. I can see there is a message there. That's
okay. That means that.
Yeah, explanatory. We're getting some responses in now.
Perfect. Moving on. Then what about this one? What about this one?
This one's explanatory.
Absolutely. Did we have also chat responses, or
that was the chat response? I'm repeating the chat response.
Okay. One last. What about this one?
Last one. And thank you, chat, for also.
Thanks for everyone.
Which chart is that you're looking at when you're explaining whether it's exploratory or explanatory?
Yeah. So what about this one? Anybody with comments?
We've got someone who said exploratory.
Yep. 4 out of 4. Congratulations, everybody. Like, that was good. That is very, very impressive. 4 out of 4. So that is exploratory. Again, there is no message. There is no exact message. You can see here and say, wait a minute, why is course A and course B 20%? I can say, wait a minute, which was this course C? Or somebody can say, oh, no, okay, I don't know. Course A and course B take almost 50%, or no, course C and course D take up 50% of the revenue, or more than 50% actually, right? Everybody looks at that pie chart and kind of comes up with their own discovery, kind of comes up with their own insight. There is no particular message that we want and I want to kind of convey. That's exploratory. Perfect. So in order for us to do the explanatory visualization right, we need to understand a few things, right? The first one is, who is the audience, right? That is super critical. Who are we going to send that? Will inform us and give us some insights on, are they biased in some way? What type of charts do they know how to read? All of those things, you have to figure out who the audience is, what they expect to see, how they expect to see it, etc. What's the point you want to make, right? This is what is the message that we want to convey. There, every single time, if you think about it, you can show tables only, right? But that's not the point. Most of the times, the most interesting things and the way people grow in an organization, especially when they're in the data part, the financials part, the kind of the data heavy teams, etc., is by them taking a bunch of data, analyzing that data and going in front of the management executives, etc., and giving them insights and also giving them suggestions. Hey, based on that, we probably need to do this and that and this and that, and here is the plan, right? This is next level stuff, as people may want to say. So who is the audience? What's the point they want to make? And also, how are they going to do it? So we are looking for, like, what is the chart, or what is the data and the chart that we can be using to convey that point, to convey that message. More or less, we are looking for context, right? So just to give you an example how that may look like, again, here is who. So our team, I'm going to be building a visualization that's going to be consumed by our team here in Sofia. What is the visualization and what I'm trying to achieve with it? What is the message? I want to show them that 2 of our courses are making most of our training revenue. That is an interesting insight that we found, right? And how am I going to do that? Well, you can read it by yourself by illustrating the percentage those courses make for our training revenue using pie or donut chart. Let's say that's just one read of it, right? There are many visualization potentially that are possible here. It's just my read on the topic. So how that may look? Well, one of the options is for it to look like this. 2 courses are bringing more than 60%. You see the pie chart, the donut chart. You see them selected. You see them in blue color. You see the names of the charts, etc. That's my read on that specific case. If I need to present it in front of the team, I'll approach it this way. It doesn't mean that's the only correct way on the planet Earth, right? It's just my way, and I think it will work very well if my team sees it. They can see this chart, they can see this slide, and very quickly, if I'm in front of them, very quickly, 1, 2, 3, the main test is 3 seconds or, okay, 5 seconds. If they're not able to understand what they're seeing for 3 to 5 seconds, there's something wrong with that slide or with that visualization. Now, that being said, let's go to some of the very common mistakes that I really don't want you to do, right? These are very basic things that everybody here can fix if you have done them in the past. Again, the main idea is that in the context of presentations, that can be a huge, huge problem for you, and you don't need to be a designer to fix those issues. So what is the first one? Well, the first one is this one. Very simple slide with a huge problem. I'll tell you a story about it. So a few years ago here in Sofia, there was a conference that was called MobCon. It was all about mobile technologies. And in that conference, there was a session on the topic of user experience, which is a topic that I adore. I really like that stuff. Like, where do you click? Where is a button placed? What is the color of the button? Is it bold? Is the font bold? Is it not? Is it italic? All of those things. I really like the psychology behind that. So I see the speaker and I saw that she is the CUXO, meaning the Chief User Experience Officer of a company in the US. She came here for this conference and she was about to present. So me and a friend of mine went into the room, and the room was, and I mean, packed, you know, like packed conference room. Just come with me, imagine this for a second, okay? So packed room for 350 people. So there is no places anymore to sit. So what we decide to do is to go at the back of the room and just stand still, right? Because we're all in about the content. So in the middle of the presentation, she is doing very, very well up until then. Like, the things that she's presenting, what we call the story, because an effective presentation is 3 components most of the times: story, design, delivery. Story, what you say; design, how it looks; delivery, how you say it. So up until then, story, what she was saying, very cool stuff, you know, like very interesting stuff, presented in a way that I, as her audience, can understand it without any issues. Then we have the design, right? The design, well, she is a designer and her slides were brilliant. I mean, brilliant slides. The delivery, well, she was very well rehearsed. Like, she was prepared. She was taking the stage, definitely not for first time. She's an experienced speaker. So up until now, everything was going perfectly well and the audience was definitely engaged. And then a slide like this showed up. Very simple slide. It was saying 42% of something is something, and then very quickly she moved on to the next one. Now, I don't know for you, but when I see a slide and I don't see something on it, or I don't hear something for that number or for that chart from the speaker, so I don't hear it or I don't see it on the slide written down, I worry a bit. And the reason why I worry a bit is because it's missing something very important related to the credibility and the trustworthiness of the data, and that is the so-called source. You probably have seen such presentations, and there is a person in the data visualization space who is called Alberto Cairo. We are going to mention him once again, but in his books, and I believe many more people now are starting to read those types of books, and many more people will be reading those books and they are going to hear his advice. So when we together with you are presenting in front of people like those, he actually advised them that if you don't hear or see the source of the data, just ignore it. You don't have to, you shouldn't believe that. Like, if there is no source, you shouldn't believe that. So bear this in mind. There are people who are very much pushing and who are the leaders of the data visualization space that are pushing that message tremendously. So what this means for us when we're building presentations for our clients and when you're building your presentations, always include the source, or at least mention it. Because if the source is credible, if the source is trustworthy, and it's credible in the heads, in the minds of your audience, you won't have any problem. However, if you miss to tell it, or if something like this happens, because when we saw this, the first reaction of the person next to me was he raised his hand and asked her a question, which was, hey, excuse me, where is this data coming from? And her response was, well, the data is coming from multiple resources. When you say something like this, it's over, right? It's just over. Now, every single thing that this person was about to say, I was going to question. And everything that she just presented to us, I'm now also questioning already. So she lost the trust between her and us as her audience, and that's a very big problem. And it's super easy for you to fix it when you're presenting data. Just put the source, and that source should be credible, right? It should be credible. People, your audience should believe that source. If you say, hey, Boris said something about flights and air, I don't know. Nobody knows who Boris is, and nobody knows whether or not I have the expertise to talk about the aviation industry. However, if you say Lufthansa says that 80% of the flights are whatever, well, I trust Lufthansa, or I trust, I don't know, Boeing or Air Canada or whatever it is, right? So if the data is coming from them, it's a different story. Then we have another very simple fix. You may have noticed it already for explanatory visualizations. One of the easiest fixes for you to make the data more easy for the audience to read is to change the text on top, meaning to change the title. What you have to do is just change the words. Instead of saying or putting something like revenue per course or market share per product or whatever, or Q or results per Q or whatever, you just put the message on top. So it may look like this. As you already saw it, our storytelling course generated most of the training revenue in 2019. Also color coding, etc. The main idea of those titles, they, by the way, you may see them in the literature, that is a very complicated word. You may find those being described as action titles, or you may find them being said as, or called as summary titles, and some places they even call them takeaway titles. I don't know how you may find them. I don't care how do you call them, just use them. Very easy fix for the business person or for you also, because you don't have to be a designer. Just place the message on top. What ends up happening when you do that is people, the first thing that they're going to see, if the title is on the top hand side of the slide, they're first going to read the title. When the title is the message itself, they understand the message quickly, and instead of them looking at the chart and trying to figure out what this chart is saying, when they read the title, they afterwards don't look at the chart in detail. They only look, and you'll probably see it if you are already doing it, they're looking in the chart to support, they're looking for the chart to support the message that they just read. And once they see that the chart supports the message on top, their attention is back to you. And that's exactly what you want to do, right? This is, so source, title, then this one. Can we question the audience? We know that there is a delay, but can we question the audience? What percentage do they think the yellow-orange piece is? And what is the number for the black piece of the pie chart? Like, if they have to shoot a number, what numbers would they say? And are those pieces equal? Let's see the response in the chat. Let me know when you have them. I will get again some water. Are they equal? And if they are not equal, which one is bigger and what are the numbers potentially? That would be very interesting.
We're still waiting for the chat to catch up.
What do you think?
But I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I don't know. A looks slightly big. Like if I had to bet on it, maybe A is bigger. But it's perspective. It's hard to say, right?
Okay. Yep.
Maybe.
Okay. Valid point. Maybe. Do we have something? Let's see. Now there will be. How many people are alive, by the way?
There are, let's see, 74 people online right now. There should be another 500 plus who will be coming in afterwards. Okay, we've got some responses here. Someone who has admitted they've taken your course in the past says it's impossible to say. I've already told them he's cheating. But some other responses, we've got 32% and 28%. We've got 35% and 30%. Someone saying yellow 30%, black 30%.
Okay, equal. Interesting. So just to show you the real numbers, that are the real numbers. These are the real numbers. And so this is exactly as we said, hey, this is the perspective and this is the 3D kind of effect, if you wish. And that is, again, we continue to see, as you saw in the beginning of the presentation, we continue to see presentations full of 3D. And when you ask the audience, by the way, again, look for 3D visualizations in the media during political elections, you will be surprised. And again, when we see that with our quants and when we ask them, hey, why did you choose the 3D? They end up saying, well, doesn't it look cool? Doesn't it look fancy? Doesn't it look modern, right? Well, it doesn't. So my recommendation here is always stay away from this. Always keep it very simple. Use the two-dimensional thing. Use the two-dimensional version of the chart and keep it very, very simple. So that being said, this is how it looks when you do it on the 3D chart. Many people here, so that we don't lose more time here, many people say, hey, these are equal. No, these are not equal. March is bigger than April. There are so many opinions. But then when you show it to them this way, they say, what is this, right? How is this even possible? Well, again, it's perspective, as you said, right? That is the 3D effect again. And so what I want to do is, hey, let me simplify that even further and maybe leave it like this, right? So keep it simple, simplify, and ask very brutal questions when you're building charts. When you're building a chart, you have to know exploratory versus explanatory. You have to understand the audience. Of course, what you need to communicate. What is the best chart to communicate that message, of course. But then once you do it, try to simplify, be brutal, question every single element that you leave on the chart by asking yourself, hey, is this thing adding value to that chart? Yes or no, 0 or 1? And if it's a yes, well, it should be there. But if it's a no, well, you may like it, but it should go away, right? So that is what you want to do. This is so-called simplicity and restraint principle applied in the world of data and in the world of data visualization. And just before we end, I want to show you some things related to tables, because tables are very, very interesting. So very quickly on the tables, I'm just going to show you the real slides here. So that is a table that normally PowerPoint builds or Excel builds. And normally what people end up doing is just copy pasting that table from Excel to PowerPoint with one of those very, very not professionally 2020-ish styles, meaning the visual. So this same table can look like this, right? And the question, and I'm not going to show you how you can do it because I'm sure that most of you know very well, you can select the table, you can copy paste that table, and you can start playing by first going to the table design, all the colors, making everything the same font, right? Then asking again, hey, do I need to have a border on top of, do I have to have borders everywhere, right? Well, no, why should you, right? Maybe you don't have the case and maybe you don't find a reason why there should be borders. Again, here I want to just bring you behind the scenes of what a professional designer would do that we also can do. What professional designers will ask when you're presenting a table is, hey, what's the most important thing in a table? And normally people will say the data. Right? The data is the most important thing. And if that's the case, why are we throwing so much color on the data instead of removing that color so that the data can pop? And this is why professional designers will first remove all the color, right? Then what they're going to do, what you may be seeing, is that the next thing that personally I'm truly impressed by that is what they do is they try to think very carefully which element brings value and how they can make it be there, but be as minimal and as not visible as possible. So what I mean here is that if you look at the borders, if you look at the lines underneath each row, you'll see that they use gray, and you can create gray borders underneath each row and not black ones. The main idea is that you need those lines, because if I want to see the number for data viz, I need that line because my eye keeps track on the row through that line. This is where the line brings value to the visualization. However, it's not blue, it's not orange, it's not black, and it's not dark black or bolded. It is very light gray. You can still see it, it serves its purpose, but it almost merges with the background, right? And of course, you have to be really careful if you're doing that, or if you're planning to do a presentation that's also going to be printed out, because depending on the printer, that gray color may disappear, right? So you have to be careful. But this is what you end up seeing when you work with professional designers, or what you can do by just removing all the color, formatting the table a bit better, removing stuff that's not needed, etc. Now, that being said, one last thing for the tables, because not that many people obviously know it, and people were shocked when I showed them this thing a few years ago, or I don't know, months ago. There is a way, if you still want to present a table, you say, hey, it needs to be a table. Sure, okay, let it be a table. However, if you're going to be presenting it in front of a live audience or during a call, at least animate it, right? At least show it row by row, or column by column, or I don't know, value by value. Now, the problem with that is that if you try to animate that table, normally in PowerPoint, you go to the animations tab, and what you end up doing is clicking on, let's say, the fade animation. However, you may have noticed that when this happens, you don't have any options for you to say row, animate per row, animate per column, or animate as a single object, or whatever. It always goes and animates the whole table as one big thing, and that's not cool. Now, the tricky part is that in order for you to do that, it is a bit more complicated than it looks. And so in order for us to fit in the 15 minutes, I'll show you how you do that. So you copy the table, you say right-click, copy, right? Or Control-C, you go on an empty slide, and instead of you pasting with Control-V, you go to the Home tab, right? You go to the Home tab, you go to the left-hand side where it says Paste. You click on the so-called Paste Special button. It's very logical up until now, right? It's very usual, this is the way business people think. Then you click on the so-called Picture Enhanced Meta File. You're not asking what the hell does that mean? You're just saying, yeah, Boris showed me. So you go to the Picture Enhanced Meta File. Take this in mind. We're copy pasting a table and we're making it a picture. I don't know how a picture is being animated, but let's see. This is the table again. If I now go to the animations and I click fade, nothing seemed to change. Still the same issue. However, if I undo that, you will see something very interesting. First of all, this table is obviously a picture. On the upper part of the slide, sorry for that, in PowerPoint, it says picture format. So this table is a picture. However, if I right-click on the table's border, I can go to the group button and say ungroup. Now, I don't know what you expect to see or what you expect to happen when you are ungrouping a picture, but let's try, right? Microsoft says, are you crazy? You say, yeah, I am. I was in this virtual conference. You click yes, you go to the animation, something happens with the table, you go to the animations, and it's still the same, right? It's still not working. And you now remember that what you have to do is go to the table again, right-click again, where you just right-click, and take a look at this one. The ungroup button is still enabled. It's still working. So let's ungroup this for a second time. So take a look what happens when you ungroup a table that you pasted as an enhanced picture meta file twice. Now, every single object here is a separate object. And from here, now you can animate the way you want. A bit tricky, not that easy to kind of come up with, like it's not logical at all, but it's working. It is working, so use that one. use that trick to kind of help yourself. So at the end, I wanted to kind of mention again the words of Alberto Cairo, who presented for the Presentation Guild a few months ago. If you don't know also the Presentation Guild and you're into the world of presentations, or you need presentations for your business, this is a place where everybody kind of connects. Like this is a place where this community kind of lives on the web. And what he ended up saying is that our main goal when we're visualizing data should not be to simplify, right? Because many times when we try to simplify, what we end up doing is oversimplifying it. What he said, and I really liked that, was that we should be here to clarify. We have some data, and our goal together with you, when we're trying to present it in front of our customers, in front of internal people, in front of teammates, in front of the executives in the company, should be to clarify that data, and to clarify the message and try to convey a message to them. And what he said is that the beauty of the chart, the beauty of the visualization will be there, but the beauty of the visualization will be there because it will just become a byproduct of our approach to clarifying. And I believe that is so true. So my ask for you here with this session is that the next time you're building your presentations, your charts, your tables, remind yourselves, or watch the recording again, remind yourself what we discovered and what we talked about today, and try to implement it. Try to test it out, because I promise you that if you do that, you will be able to become way better in communicating the message that you want to communicate. Thank you very much for spending those 50 minutes with me. I hope that you learned something new, and in case there are questions, I will be happy to answer in the next 5 minutes.
Great, thank you, Boris. That was a fantastic presentation. I certainly thoroughly enjoyed it anyway. So as Boris mentioned, he'll be around to answer a couple more questions for the next few minutes. So if you did want to have any questions, you could put them in the Q&A. In the meantime, Boris, do you mind if I take back the screen just to put up the evaluation slides, which everyone will have seen over and over again. We'd love for you to fill out the evaluation survey for the session to see what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and basically give us feedback on what you thought of the session. So please let us know what you think. And also the other slide that we've been showing every session, the Microsoft Excel team seeking research participants. I'm not going to bother reading this out because it's been read out about 48 times so far. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in. Or at least one question. Do you have any comments regarding slides with dynamic interaction, things like slices and drop downs and so on?
Yeah, I have a comment, and these could be very interesting again in the exploratory, if you're building something for the exploratory purposes. So for example, this may work very well. We had a case with one of our clients where they said, hey, we want to do something special for a customer of ours, and they wanted to build a presentation where this presentation was going to be given to the audience on tablets, right? On tablets. So everyone in the audience can have a tablet and explore a specific presentation that is prepared through their own eyes and through their own device. In this case, if you have data that you want to show and you want to kind of present to them or give them the chance for them to explore, that may be super cool and super interesting. However, otherwise, we have to talk about the context exactly, and please shoot me an email or find me somewhere on the web to let me know like what exactly was the context about drilling down in the live presentation, and the audience to be able to drill down, because there may be a context where this is applicable. But again, for something that's being given to the audience and they can consume it on their mobile device or then on a tablet, which is still a mobile device, that may be something very impressive, especially for enterprise customers, where what they're used to seeing are boring presentations. So if you do that, that may be one of the things that could differentiate you tremendously.
All right, we've got two more questions, which I'll see if I can get you to answer really quickly because we're out of time now. Is there a way to take a pivot chart to PowerPoint? And secondly, what do you think about power maps in Excel?
So let's go with the later one, the power maps in Excel. To be honest, I have played very little with power maps, but unfortunately what I was able to do was not that impressive to me in the moment that I tested it out, especially when we talk about, at least from what I understand, especially when we talk about smaller countries, meaning Bulgaria. So it was not as mature as I wished it to be. I hope it's going to be better. If you want to map data on a map, I think there are way better tools and on the market that you can utilize and kind of embed into PowerPoint afterwards. So that is my personal kind of opinion on this. I try to rely on our designers to help me out with those things, and they kind of fine tune and find the perfect visualization for everything that we do. So that is my take on it. Don't take it for final, the most brilliant one and the only one. As for the power pivots, can you visualize? Can you copy paste it? That is something that I will test and I haven't done this, by the way. I don't know, like I haven't done this for probably years. I'm not sure whether or not you can. I would argue that you probably can copy paste it, but yeah, I really don't know. That is a good question. I'll double check that and come back to you and kind of reply over here or over email, or I'll just let you know, and you probably have some channels to inform everybody. I really don't know. That's a good one.
Sounds good. I expect that the person can probably email you directly as well if they want to get a response too. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Boris. It was certainly enlightening to me. I hope it was enlightening to a lot of other people as well. If you mentioned the Presentation Guild as well. For those who aren't aware, the founding president of the Presentation Guild, I understand, Echo Swinford, is actually running a session in 8 hours' time, roughly. So she'll be running a session on creating effective charts or more effective charts. So if you liked Boris's session, you're probably going to like Echo's session as well, I'd imagine. So do make sure you check that out. But
the secret is that we stick between each other, so you will learn other things than the ones here. So go to that session for sure.
Oh, good work. All right. Well, again, thank you, Boris, for your presentation. For everyone else, we're going to take a break for a few minutes. So grab a drink, grab a bite to eat, and we'll get started in 3 minutes with Jordan's session on the Excel charts that Microsoft forgot to add.